these two boxes of Rallyman are jam-packed with possibilities, and it's my intention to highlight all of the interesting things you can do with them. This is Shakedown. In today's Shakedown, we're heading into the forest and won't be too sure if we can make it back out as the stewards close their eyes and cover their ears while we turn this event into a demolition derby. Racing can get a little hectic, maybe not this hectic, but it can still be chaotic on occasion, and Rallyman has the rules to make it all happen. Well, maybe not the explosions. Our track today is the Timberland circuit, and while it comes from a game that doesn't worry about joker laps or even sportsmanlike behaviour, its split route makes it perfect as a practice ground for more rallycross action with emphasis on the action. The joker lap is the longer of the two routes, so that will likely change your strategy from that which you may have used in a Las Vegas car park. Again, 2 laps before the checkered flag is thrown, but how many cars will make it that far, and what do I mean by that? Before we find out, the eagle-eyed amongst you will have spotted that the pre-grid forms part of the course, and according to the direction of the joker lap, we're starting on the wrong side of the start line where there aren't any grid boxes. The good news is that mechanically, that's not an issue. It's just artwork to suggest how the tile might be used. If you want to drive on it backwards or ignore a track feature like a jump completely, you can. Just make sure to tell everyone at the table first. We're sticking with the RX dashboards, and we're also sticking with difficulty 5 NPCs. There's potentially going to be a lot going on in this race, so the less admin we need to do, the better. Why is that then? Well, to have a more authentic demolition derby style race means we need to ignore a few rules and tweak a few more, and we simply don't know what the outcome of our changes will be until we see them out on the track. I'm expecting chaos, but hopefully playable, entertaining chaos. For starters, there are a fair few jumps scattered around this circuit, including a jump token from the co-pilot expansion. Under the normal rules, you can't take a jump if doing so would have you land on another car. I'm not just ignoring that rule today, but merging it into the full contact rules so that if you land on a car from a jump, you're also considered to be pushing them out of the space that they occupy. It sounds like this would be dangerous, and you'd be right. If you want cars to crash out quickly, I'd suggest adding in some damage tokens to this rule, but as I have other plans concerning damage, I'm instead going to dish out 2 danger tokens to each car involved in the collision. So their next turn will be compromised to say the least, but the race should still continue for those involved. While on the subject of danger tokens, the full contact rules say that you can push cards into features like jumps or water hazards, but the only result in doing so is a danger token. Not today, it isn't. If you push a car onto a jump space and they're in the right gear to jump, they're jumping. If they're in too high a gear, they're crashing and pulling any necessary damage. And then they get a danger token for their next turn. Now, all that sounds cool, but it might not happen during the race. So to help increase the odds of something happening, we're also making use of the oil and debris rules from the adrenaline expansion. Don't worry if you don't have them, as they can be easily proxied by anything that seems sensible to you. In short, if a car loses control and draws 1 damage token that directly affects their car, such as gear die damage, they put oil onto the track and that space is considered to have a speed limit of 1. If a car loses control and draws 2 or more damage tokens that affect their car, they instead place a debris token onto the space, making it cost 1 hazard to enter, much like an on-track hazard on a sharp corner. Usually, these tokens are removed once every car has passed them on track, but today they're staying down until the race is over, should any be placed of course. Oh, and we're not worried about cars having to lose control to set those rules into motion. Oh no, as soon as you draw enough damage, you're dropping something onto the track. How can we go about dishing out lots of damage tokens without waiting on someone to lose control? That'll be the impact damage rules. On their own they're fine, but if we change just one of the pushing rules, the impact damage you can deal out can scale pretty quickly in the right conditions. That one rule is the rule that says you can't make use of slide spaces if you're pushed into one. If we change that to say that you can, cars are now free to continue blocking each other as much as possible. It'll mean they take damage, yes, but it does mean that the car pushing them takes an equal amount. It would, in the long run, be smarter to not draw excessive amounts of damage tokens if you have a say in the matter, but seeing as I'm controlling all 4 cars and want to make use of the damage bag, playing it safe won't come up too often. The damage bag today has every damage token that comes in Rallyman Dirt and its expansions, so we've got damage for every die type, multiple flag colours and weather tokens. Having laid all that out, the dice may well conspire to allow for nothing but a regular rallycross race, so whatever happens we're learning. How much we're learning is anyone's guess, at least we're having fun, right? Let's get onto the track and stick our elbows out. We are in third place on the grid, but can we make it around 2 laps of the Timberlands circuit? We are going to see what the green car can do to start things off. Most of their dice are good. They're going to coast out towards the first corner before going all the way up through the gears. They can jump in fourth gear and then end in a slide that will block the course up for the cars behind and will allow the green car to maintain control over proceedings. Next up, the blue car. They came close to losing control. They won't be able to make use of as many dice as the green car by the looks of it. They can get into second and then into third and then into fourth, and then they can go over the jump in fifth gear, and we know what that means according to our custom rules. They are going to land in the space where the green car is. The green car is going to continue its slide, and there's no damage pulls. They were both in the same gear. We can't go over the jump in fifth gear, even though we have allowed ourselves to land on other cars. The blue car is, of course, blocked by the green car, so we are going to have to go over the jump in fourth at best. So that will be something like that, and then 3, 2, bunch of coasts, and first gear. And I like to get a focus pool going, so I'm going to roll those flat out and hope for the best. That'll put us right behind these front runners. 2 hazards on some coast die. That'll put us there in fourth gear. Finally, at the back of the pack is the red car. They too won't be able to jump in fifth gear. Will they even get to the jump? Lots of dice to work with. Let's see what they can do. They can go into second, into third. They can boost up to fifth to allow them to place down their fourth gear on the jump to come beside us in gear 4. Next round, it is the green car to go first, but they have 2 hazards on their turn already. Now, the best thing for them to do from fifth gear is to break down to third, and then they can coast through and emerge in second and boost up to gear 4 into a sliding space in order to try and control the race, as the blue car is going to do what it can to keep up. They have a load of hazards on their coast die. Let's see. I think they can start in fifth, break down to third. They can't break down again, so they can go into second there and then boost up to gear 4. I think they want to use a standard space rather than the sliding spaces because it at least keep them close to the green car. If we can put ourselves here in fifth gear, we will get the jump on the blue and the green car, but the chances of the green car slowing us down by sliding and drifting are high. So with that in mind, I'm going to coast, drop to 3, coast, and then come out in fourth. That's a safe set of dice to roll, so we'll do them flat out as well. 1 hazard on the 3, nothing to worry about. So we're here in fourth, biding our time. And the red car at the back is going to probably have to sit in the corner. They've rolled a lot of hazards as well. Not enough to lose control. They're going to, I think, do something like this. They can go up to 5th before dropping down to 4th and using the drifting space and wait for all of us ahead to get out of the way. Next round, we are all waiting for the green car to clear the track. A fair few hazards to work with. So if they coast there and break down to 2nd gear is probably their best bet. That's one hazard. They can coast out and they find themselves in the fork tile and they have a choice of the Joker route or the standard lap. We know from our last rallycross race that going on the shortest route is more beneficial to you if you are out in front. So they are going to drop down to 1st gear so that they can boost up to gear 3. Unfortunately, they can only end in 4th gear and they will take the inside lane for their upcoming corner. The blue car is going to do much the same. A drop to 2nd and then a couple of coasts. We'll put them on the fork tile. If they think that they can overtake the car ahead and they are close enough, they might as well stay on the same lap. And they can, in fact, do that. If they boost up to gear 3 there, they can come into 4th and come out in 5th. So the blue car manages to overtake. We are up next, and I think that getting the Joker lap out of the way will allow us a better opportunity to overtake them both. So, with that in mind, I'm going to try my best to go the other way. We have lots of focus tokens to help make this work. We're unfortunately limited with a speed restriction going into the forest. So let's see. Let's 5th, 4th, 3rd. And that's one coast less. We are at least making our roll a little safer. But I think that is our best course of action. So 1 by 1, there's a hazard on our first die. That usually happens when I decide to roll 1 by 1. We are good so far. The 3 and the boost is good, so I can roll the 4 and I don't have to worry about the 5. It is fine. Finally, the red car at the back has pretty much all of its dice to work with. They want to catch up as quick as they can. They are going to break down to 2nd, coast out, drop to 1, that's their only hazard, boost up to 3. They won't be able to go on the standard lap because of speed limits. So what they can do instead is push us into a speed limit that we are facing. No damage, but I have now got a danger token on my dashboard, making it harder for us to get the distance that we want in order to try to pull away from it. So the blue car doesn't have a lot of clean dice to work with. So they don't want to go over the jump in 5th gear. They could go over it in 4th, except that would be 2 hazards for their turn. If you put a hazard die as an NPC on a feature like a jump, it doubles up the hazards, but it would end up blocking the course for the green car that follows. So that would be the blue car's turn. They could always go to 3rd and get a little bit of extra distance. The green car behind them would probably push them out of the way. So we'll leave that there to see what happens. Chalk it up to a learning game, of course. Okay, we've been pushed into the next space. So we might as well take advantage of being ahead by getting as far ahead as possible. I don't want to go over the jump in 5th gear. It would land us in the water hazard, which would be fine, but it would end our turn there. Is there a way of getting through both the jump and the water hazard? Yes, there is. That would put us here in 5th gear. We could break down to first, second, coast, boost up to fourth, and come out in fifth. The problem with that is that as I only have 3 hazards and I've already been given one, I don't want to roll too many dice if I can help it. So let's keep those back. Let's go over in fourth to get the space, and then let's do that. Now hopefully those dice will roll favourably for us. Otherwise I'm paying a lot of focus tokens. Do I want to risk this? If they're both hazards, we have a problem. They are both clean. So the 4 is getting rolled as well. It's a good roll so far. It's a wonderful roll so far. I could have gone flat out. We're over here in 5th gear. We have got as far away from the red as we can get. So what are they going to do? A couple of hazards to work around. So if they drop to 2nd gear, they can then drop to 1st. They want to take the jump, so they want to be there in 4th. They want to use a die there. They would like to be in 5th. They're probably not going to push us this time. They are going to need to boost up to 3rd gear at some point, and that will be their move. And they end in 5th gear, right next to us, keeping the pressure on. Finally, the green car. They have a blue roadblock ahead of them. If they coast, they will be there in 4th. They can coast again. They can go into 4th, and they can push the blue car in 3rd gear. They could boost up to gear 5 and push them out of that space. Am I feeling particularly violent? Yeah. So the green car is going to do that. The blue car gets a choice of which space to go into. They will take the inside. Not that they are going to have turn order in their low gear. However, both the green car and the blue car have drawn 2 damage tokens. So the green car, first of all, has drawn -1 boost die. Their second token is we have changed the weather. We have to flip over all of our dashboards. We are now using the leader die instead of the white coast die. The blue car has drawn coast die damage and -1 gear. So before we proceed, the green car has taken 1 damage that affected its dashboard. So it's going to spill oil onto the space where that collision happened. And that happens to be the space that it's in. So there is now a speed restriction on that drifting space. And the blue car, having drawn 2 damage tokens that have affected its dashboard, puts a hazard token into the space where that damage occurred. So that is good for the blue and the green car because they've already done their standard lap. And that is bad for us and the red car as we have to go through this debris before we can even finish our lap. A shrewd move by the green car because now they also have turn order. So with 1 fewer brake die and no boost die, what can they do to regain the lead? They have all the gears available to them. They won't be able to make use of them all thanks to that lack of boost. They are going to drop into 3rd, coast through. They can go up to 4th and then come out in 5th gear. That is their best course of action. We have 3 coasts available. We have just the 1 brake die, so we can get down to 3rd gear. We can't drop to 2nd to boost up to 4th because we need to be in 5th in order to get around the green car. So that is the best that we can do. We have focus to pay for dice, so I'm not going to roll these flat out. One hazard so far. The brake is good. Fourth gear is good, so the fifth gear is fine no matter what it rolls. We are there in second place, and we see what the red car behind us can do. A couple of coasts have a hazard, but otherwise they are good to go. In fact, they can use all those coast die in order to catch up to us. They want to be here in fifth. To get there, they can be there in fourth, and they can break down to gear 3 on the inside. That will put them right behind us on the drifting space as we see what the blue car can do. Now, the blue car has one fewer coast die and one fewer gear. Will that matter? In the wet on dry tyres, I don't know if it will. Let's go fifth, fourth, respect the speed limit and respect the speed limit. That is the best they can do. As we go into the next round, the green car is going to kick things off. They want to get away from us if they can. They got no boost to do it, however, and hazard on the 4 makes their life a little bit tricky. They can break down to third gear. They can then coast through the start-finish line and emerge in fifth. A short turn for them as a result of their damage and the changing conditions. Can we overtake? We have a boost die. We'd like to be there in fifth to overtake them. So we can go fourth and then fifth. And then what we can do is break down to third gear to block the corner and force whoever is following us to push us through it. Now, the risk is that we will take damage, but I will worry about that on a future turn. I'm going to roll these one by one and see how far we get. A hazard and a blank coast die. That needs to be in the dice tray. The 4 is good. The 5 to overtake is good. And I'm going to chicken out and pay for the breakdown to 3. I don't want to crash. I want to control the race as best I can. Next up is the red car. They have 2 hazards. Not enough to worry about. They can break down to third. That will mean coming into fifth gear there. That's probably their best choice of action. Can the blue car keep up? They haven't rolled too many hazards, but they don't have too many dice to work with. So they can break down to third gear for 1 hazard. They can drop to second. Then they can boost up to fourth and emerge in fifth, 1 space behind the green car. They can do no more as we go into the next round, hoping that we don't get barged into. Let's find out. The green car has no boost die. Right. Do they want to go the long way? Fourth, third, and then break to first, and then go for distance. That would be something like this around the outside. They have to respect the speed limit, and then they can end over in second gear over here. Or do they want to push us out of the way? That will allow them to keep their speed up. So they probably want to get pushing. That will mean breaking down to third gear on our space. We get pushed through the corner and have a choice of which space to go into, so we're going to go into that space. They will then at least coast to go around us. They can't put that dice on the jump because of its hazard being doubled, so they would use a coast die instead. That will put them over here. And they can't place any more dice because of the hazards, so they're going to end on the inside. A potential to be overtaken. The red car is up next. They do have a boost to make use of, and they don't have to push us out of the way. So they can go into this space. They have to respect the speed limit of 4, and they also have to be in at least third to overtake us. So they can drop to gear 3 in order to meet those requirements. They don't have to worry about hazards, so they can coast, and they boost to 5th. They would end in, let's say, this space on the inside, and then they could drop to 4th in the drifting space of the corner. That will allow them to control this race. We need to see what the blue car can do. 1 fewer coast die than the rest of us, and well, that was cocked, so we'll re-roll that. There we are. They can coast up to the corner. They can brake to 3rd gear. They can't use all of their gears. They're not going to use 1st gear anyway. So they can't drop down to 2nd because that is a hazard. So they are just going to go into gear 4 and then over the jump in 5th gear. That would put them in that space, is probably the best for them. They've come from 4th into 2nd, and maybe it wasn't a good choice for us to park on the corner. Now, we want to be in 5th gear next to the blue car if we can manage it. We don't have to go over the jump. We could just do something like that, and I could risk going flat out to make that happen. Very risky with these dangerous dice, but live dangerously. 2 hazards on the gear dice. That puts us here in 5th gear. Next round, the blue car is going first, and they have to push the red car out of the way or take the shortcut. And given that that means that we will have to push the red car out of the way, I think that's what blue is going to do. So they are going to brake down to 3rd gear in the first shortcut space. They will coast through, and then if they want to make the most of their dice, they're going to drop to 2nd, boost up to 4th. That is 2 hazards, and then emerge in a slide in 5th gear. I suppose it would have liked to have changed the speed limit on the corner, but can't have everything. Next up is us. So we have to push the red car out of the way. Unfortunately, we can't because it's likely to maintain its drift and block us. So do we want to, we can't dish out the damage to it just yet. So we want to be there in 4th, and we want to push it there in 4th and push it there in 4th. And we can push it there in 4th. And we can't push it in 3rd. So we're going to have to go up to 5th gear in order to push it all the way up to where the blue car is. So that is what I would like to do. How far through that run are we going to get? We're going to go, I didn't get my focus tokens. 1, 2, 3, 4. How far through that run are we going to get? Let's see. 4 is a hazard. The coast die is a hazard. That's going to be 6 focus in order to pay for those dice. I've got the focus. I'm going to spend the focus in order to get me up the track. made a little bit of progress, but I have just given more of an advantage to the red car going into this corner. So that red car is going to want to be pushing the blue car out of the way. It's going to have to go up to 5th gear to do that. So that is in that space. The blue car can either take 3 danger tokens by going on the inside and then losing control on the corner, or 2 danger tokens by going on the outside. So that is what it will do. No damage is dished out, and the corner is blocked for the red car. And finally, the green car will join the train at the back. They want to make things easy on themselves, so they will end here behind us in 5th, although they could push us. They could push us. Let's see. Coast, brake to 3, coast up to 4. They could push us in 5th gear. That will get them a little bit more distance. We are all buzzing around this corner in 5th gear. Some of us more damaged than others. Let's see what the next round brings. The blue car has 1 fewer coast die and 1 fewer gear. It also already has 2 danger tokens for its turn. It can break down to 3rd gear, but by doing so, it loses control for placing its 3rd hazard, and therefore it is crashing on this corner. A green flag, and what that means is a lot of chaos is about to happen as cars frantically slow down to push it out of the way. The red car is up next. It has not lost control. Now, its first job is to brake down as far as it can to respect the speed limit of the corner. That is in 3rd gear. That's 2 hazards for its turn already. It's going to drop to 2nd to push the blue car through the corner, avoiding the damage, but it doesn't want to do that again. So it's going to push in 1st gear. The blue car is going to maintain the block. Both cars have drawn damage tokens that affect their dashboard. However, we don't have to put down 2 oil slicks when 1 will do. So that space is now speed limited to 1. There is still a car in the way, and because we are getting violent, we might as well keep pushing it. So that coast die is placed there. Finally, the red car can push the blue car out the way. Ironically, can't overtake it. I think that is the final result. The red car is here in 1st gear. The corner has 4 different kinds of restrictions on it. What I need to do is brake down to 3rd gear and then come through in 2nd and drop to 1st, and from there we can hope to push the red car, which would go into this space, so we would have to push them again, which would go into this space, and then we would have the option of pushing them again, and they would most definitely make sure that they go on the standard lap that they need to take, so that would put them in that place. I think that's the best course of action, but we don't know how far we are going to get. Let's see what the dice say. There is a hazard on the 3. We are going through the inside of the corner, as there is no restrictions there. Down into 1st is good. We're going to push the red car. That is our 2nd hazard. So I'm going to pay for the next 2 dice to make sure we get that movement. There is no difference in speed for any of the pushes that we made, and we are a space behind the red car. The green car, they are going to coast. No, they're going to brake down to 3rd gear and cut through the inside and then coast. And then they can coast again. They can't coast once more, so they can either end in second or come here in first to make sure they get in front of blue. Doesn't really matter because they'll be going before blue anyway. Right, next round, the red car is going first. Now, this second space up here has a speed limit and an automatic hazard, so taking the corner is going to be fun. Do they want, yeah, they want to keep their speed up because we are behind them. So 1, 2, 3 on the jump. Coast puts them in a good spot, giving us a choice to make. Do we push them or do we take the shortcut? I am going to say yes. 3 on the jump puts us there. Coast through the shortcut puts us there. Playing it as safe as I can, I will still have a risk of shortcut token. We don't have a lot of focus tokens to play with. So let's see what we do. Of course, we roll a hazard on the 1. The coast is good. The 3 is good, so we do take the jump at least. I can safely roll this then. It was a hazard. It puts us in the shortcut, so we are going to take a shortcut token. We have gotten... Okay. The green car is not losing control, and it's going to coast into first, second, up to third, into fourth, over the jump in fifth, ends it on the water hazard, showing off, quite frankly. The blue car has no coast dice, so it's going to roll all these dice to see if it loses control, which it doesn't. It then has only 1 gear die that it can place, which will be gear 1, and it can then coast through the start of the Joker. That is the results of being shunted all the way through the corner by the red car. The green car does not have a boost. They are looking set for victory. They are going to break down to third gear in order to coast on by, come through in fourth and enter the drift space in gear 5 as we get to come face to face with the debris that the green car caused on the first lap. So we have to break down to first gear and coast through that space, which will give us a hazard. And we might as well coast through again. I would like to get up to fifth. Can I do it in that spot? Third, second, and then fifth, and then a coast. So in theory, I can push the green car closer to its inevitable victory, but I don't think I'm going to get that far with only 3 focus left to spend. 1 hazard on gear 1, and we're going to get a second hazard for going into this space, but I will roll the coast die anyway. It's our 3rd hazard. We lose control on this space. We are going to draw 1 damage, even at first gear, even in a yellow tile. That damage is a green flag, so we've done well, and we've caused problems for the red car behind us as they try to push us out of the way. They got 1 gear die damage. They are going to break down to first gear. That is 1 hazard. They're going to coast through. That is a 2nd hazard, but it pushes us out of the way. -1 break dice, -1 coast die. The red car can carry on, so they are going to coast past. They are going to come out in 2nd and go up to 3rd. That is the most they can do with their dice. And finally, the blue car at the back can boost all the way up to 3rd gear. The green car doesn't have a boost die, but it is close to the finish line. It can, in fact, cross it, or can it? Technically speaking, it would want to place its gear 5 after the finish line, but because NPCs can't put down enough dice to lose control with their hazards, then the best the green car could do is end there. One space before the line in gear 4. That is devastating for the green car if the red car can capitalize. It has not lost control, but there are a few hazards. So all it needs to do is get into 5th gear as soon as it can, which is there. It has managed to overtake the green car on the very last possible space, and this red car will win around Timberlands. That was unexpected, to say the least. What can the blue car do? It only has 1 gear available to it. It might as well make that 5th gear. I suppose it can go 5th through the shortcut, coast on the jump, and then coast out like that. As we get to end our run, I desperately need to get up to 5th gear somewhere over there. How can I do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, coast, 5. Or if I was feeling particularly spiteful, I could push one of these cars over the finish line for a win. Now, the red car has cost me my victory, so maybe I'm going to push the green car over the line, but I have to get there, and that's going to be a bit of a risk, as the 1 rolls a hazard, as the 2 is good, and the 3 rolls a hazard. The 4 is good. The coast is not going to be rolled. It's going to be paid for with a focus token. And the next coast die is going to be paid for with 2 focus tokens. And then I'm going to roll the 5. The 5 was my 3rd hazard, and I crash straight into the back of the green car, pushing it over the line for a race win. I don't think I've ever seen a tighter Rallyman race than that. The results from there were obvious. I lost control and was in gear 0 on a space before the finish line. The red car coasts over for 2nd place. The blue car doesn't have enough dice to close the gap, and I push my dented car over the line for 3rd place. Looking back at the last turn for the green car, I've no idea why it didn't just slow down over the finish line by descending through its gears. Clearly I can't think straight when I'm controlling a car in the lead, or when so much is going on. The same can be said for the red car's last turn. I'm sure you can work out a better dice placement for it to actually cross the line on that turn as well, and hopefully next time I'll spot these silly decisions in the race itself, rather than in the edit. Well, I did ask for all this chaos, and I got it. Quite a lot of rules to juggle when you're on your own, but I think I kept them consistent, and if I didn't, I had a blast. Maybe you've got some ideas to make demolition derbies run a little smoother. I look forward to seeing them if you do, but if you don't, then good on you for racing a little more like a gentleman, even in the argy-bargy world of Rallycross. Now, where are the pits?